my name is Abby, and in this video we're talking astrology. We're just going to cover the very basic information of what astrology is, why we learn it, and how it affects you. There is a lot to astrology, so I'm going to try my best not to overwhelm you too bad in this video. But astrology is really exciting and there's a lot to it, so I kind of get excited sometimes. But for this video, we're going to keep it pretty chill. There's not going to be a lot of in-depth information. We're going to get super in-depth in the next video because it gets a little bit more complicated, so I feel like that's more the time to talk about it. A quick disclaimer for this video, we are going to cover a lot of topics in this series about different spiritual beliefs and how they can tie into astrology. And just because I'm mentioning those does not mean that you have to believe them. They are just some extras that can be tied into the astrology part of spirituality. So for example, later in the series I will be talking about past lives and past lives through astrology. Just because we talk about that does not mean that you have to believe in past lives. It's just a little bit extra and it's what I believe, so I'm sharing what I think is, I don't want to say 100% correct, but like is a spiritual belief of mine. So with that being said, please do not try to think that you have to believe everything I say. You can absolutely make your own decisions. I am just relaying my information to you. The very first thing that I would like to cover about astrology is that there are three main types. There is the Chinese Zodiac, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. There is Western astrology, and there is what is known as Vedic astrology, which originated from India. All of these types are extremely similar yet completely different. So in this series, I'm only going to talk about Western astrology because that's what I'm most familiar with. If you are interested in Hindu practices, I highly recommend learning about Vedic astrology. A lot of people say it's more accurate for them than Western astrology, although in my personal experience, Western astrology was the most accurate. What I mean by accurate is that astrology can tell you about who you are as a person, significant life events, romantic partners, karma, and so much more. So a lot of people say that Vedic astrology predicted more life events and patterns for them than Western, although again, in my experience, Western was extremely accurate as well. I do think both are extremely accurate. I keep saying that, but that's because I think it's true. So just kind of pick which one you want to focus more on because they are a little bit different. A big reason why people want to learn about astrology is because they want to understand patterns that arise in their life and how they can overcome them if necessary. Although I do think that the biggest reason for learning about astrology above all else is to learn more about yourself and about others. Personally, I like to use astrology for spiritual growth. I like to see who I am in my most basic sense and areas in which I can improve during this lifetime. I guess it might seem kind of redundant to read something that tells you who you are, as if you don't already know who you are. But think of it like this. If you had something stuck in your teeth, you'd want somebody to point it out to you. And I think astrology is the same, where if you didn't realize that you had a negative thought pattern or behavior, astrology can help point that out and you can work towards becoming aware of it or overcoming it, depending on what it is. With that being said, astrology is not meant to be a strict script on how you should live or act. It is just meant to be a useful tool to help navigate through life. If you live your life 100% to astrology, you're going to encounter some difficulty, so I highly recommend using a lot of other sources along with astrology. Does that make sense? Anyway, if you go on like TikTok or Twitter or honestly wherever, you will see a lot of people excusing negative behaviors because of their zodiac sign, and that's not what they should be doing. I think that astrology gives an explanation on why they want to act that way, but we really shouldn't be justifying behaviors based on our zodiac sign. As far as where astrology comes from, we don't actually know an exact origin. As I said earlier, it does appear in several different cultures. Western astrology specifically, though, has heavy roots in Greek history, and it's honestly likely that the Greeks had a lot of help from the Egyptians, who were already mapping and tracking the stars for a really long time. Honestly, I do think that the Greeks had a lot of help from a lot of different cultures. However, I couldn't find a whole lot of information on that. Astrology did originate in Greece a very long time ago, so, you know, it's kind of hard to tell. But I do think that the Greeks had a lot of help from a lot of different cultures. What all of these cultures discovered was that everyone is affected by the position of the planets, the stars, the moon, and the sun every day of their life, from birth till death. When you are born, you are shaped and molded by where the planets were aligned and placed at the exact location and time that you were born. Many people say they don't believe in astrology because they don't act exactly like their zodiac sign, and that's because there's so much more going on. What they're basing their knowledge off of doesn't even scratch the surface of what astrology is. Lots of people only know what we call their star sign, which is what you would say your zodiac sign is if somebody asked you. For example, if you were born July 17th, you would tell people you're a Cancer, and if you were born, I don't know, September 2nd, you would tell people you're a Virgo. That's your star sign. You could also call it your sun sign. They can be used interchangeably, but I think that star sign makes more sense because it's determined by the constellation that you were born under. I'm going to cover why we call it the sun sign as well in the next video. I think it might be a little bit too complicated right now, but you'll understand it in the next video. The constellations that determine the zodiac signs are only able to be seen at certain times of the year, which is why if you were born in one month, you have a different zodiac sign than somebody who's born in the next month. If you don't know your zodiac sign, I have a list of dates here. You could also Google it. You could just type in your birth date and birth month and then zodiac sign into Google and it should tell you. Many people don't realize that they also have a moon sign and a sign that corresponds to all the other planets in our solar system. This could be why a lot of people feel very disconnected from their star sign, because it's likely that another planet is affecting them more strongly than the sun sign. Each of these planets can affect different areas of your being, and the fun part is that you can have different zodiac signs for each planet. For example, it is possible to have a Sagittarius sun with an Aries moon, with a Capricorn Venus, and a Mars in Scorpio. I think it's very likely that almost everyone has at least 2 planets with the same sign. I do believe, in my personal opinion, that people who have a lot of planets with the same sign are walking stereotypes of that sign. So for example, people who have a lot of Gemini, so like a Gemini sun with a Gemini moon, with a Gemini Venus, with a Gemini Mars, are very, very Gemini, in my personal opinion. The ways that each of the planets can affect you are the following, and you do not have to memorize all of these. These are just some very basic information on the planets. As you continue to learn, they will eventually become very obvious to you. And in my next video, I'm going to cover how you can tell what sign you have a planet in. Anyway, the sun affects your ego, the self, and is you at your most basic sense. The moon affects feelings, emotions, and subconscious. Mercury affects reasoning, intelligence, and communication. Venus is the planet associated with love, beauty, and attraction, so what makes you attractive and what attracts you to others. Mars is the planet of desire, aggression, sexual energy, and action. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, fortune, and optimism, while Saturn is the planet of pessimism, old age, fears, and karma. Uranus is the planet associated with individualism, social reform, and rebellion. Neptune is the planet of imagination, dreams, and psychic powers. And we do include Pluto. I do understand that Pluto is not actually a planet, it is a dwarf planet. However, it is still big enough to affect you in a pretty significant way, so I'm going to include it. It is the planet of rebirth, death, power, and obsession. There are technically more meanings to each of the planets. However, I think that might be a little too overwhelming right now because there is a lot to each planet. But if you are interested, you can absolutely go on Google and look it up, although I think it might become very confusing at that point. So do what you will. There are also a lot of other noteworthy things to look at in astrology. However, again, I think it's too much for this video, and I have a lot that I want to cover in the next video, so they will be placed there. With that, I think that's all I'm going to talk about. So I wouldn't overwhelm you too much in this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'm going to sign off now, so I will see you soon. Bye.